Alright guys, your essential question for today is how do we graph radical functions? The most basic one that we're going to look at is the square root of x function. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and graph this using a t-table. So I'm going to draw a t-table and I'm just going to pick the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I plug in 0, the square root of 0 is 0. If I plug in 1, the square root of 1 is 1. If I plug in 2, the square root of 2 is about 1.4. If I plug in 3, the square root of 3 is about 1.6. And if I plug in 4, the square root of 4 is 2. When I try to graph these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, the first point's at 0, 0. The next point is at 1, 1. The next point is at 2, 1.4. The next point is at 3, 1.6. And the last point is at 4, 2. Notice that this is the shape for my square root function. Now, speaking of the domain and the range, this is the domain, which is the x, is all numbers that are greater than or equal to 0, and the range, which is y, is all numbers that are greater than or equal to 0. I can even tell that from the equation because notice that it's like there's no number underneath the radical, nor no number on the outside of the radical, so that's why it's 0 and 0 for both the domain and the range. Alright, let's take a look at another one. Let's say you have this function, which I'm going to rewrite as y is equal to the square root of x minus 1. Well, what I can go ahead and tell is that this graph, compared to the other graph, is going to go down 1, and it's not going to move any left or right. It's going to go down 1 because of this minus 1. If there was a number inside the radical, then that means that it would have moved left or right, but there's not one. For the domain, since there's no number inside there with the x, my domain is simply x is greater than or equal to 0. But for my range, since that's the y value, it's going to be y is greater than or equal to negative 1, or that number that's on the outside. Now when I graph these, again, I'm going to do an xy, and I'm going to use the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when I plug in 0, the square root of 0 is 0, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. When I plug in 1, the square root of 1 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. When I plug in 2, the square root of 2 was like 1.4, and 1.4 minus 1 is 0.4. When I plug in 3, the square root of 3 is 1.6, and 1.6 minus 1 is 0.6. When I plug in 4, the square root of 4 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So when I graph this, notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 0, negative 1, 1, 0, 2.4, 3.6, and 4, 1. Notice it's the same shape, it's just been shifted down 1 unit. The domain is still all the numbers greater than 0, and the range is all numbers greater than negative 1. Alright, let's take a look at another graph. For this one, just by looking at the graph, I know that my square root function is going to go up 4 units and going to go left 4 units, because it's always the opposite of what's underneath the radical symbol. Also, I can go ahead and tell me my domain and my range. This time my domain would be all numbers that are greater than or equal to negative 4, and then my range would be y greater than or equal to positive 4. The way you remember that is look at the symbol up underneath the radical. See, there's an x there, so just remember to do opposite, so that's why it's x is greater than negative 4. And then whatever's on the outside, if there is a number on the outside, it's the range 4. If there's not a number, it's going to be 0. Alright, so again, I'm going to graph this. I'm going to use x and y, but I have to be very careful. I can't use 0. I don't want to start with 0 in this case. I'm going to think about the opposite, so negative 4. So I'm going to start off with negative 4, and then do negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and 0. Plugging that in, negative 4 plus 4 is 0, square root of 0 is 0, 0 plus 4 is 4. Plug in negative 3 plus 4 is 1, square root of 1 is 1, 1 plus 4 is 5. Plug in negative 2 plus 4 is 2, the square root of 2 is like 1.4, plus 5 will be 5.4. Plug in negative 1 plus 4 is 3, and the square root of 3 is like 1.6, plus 4, that will be 5.6. And then plug in 0, 0 plus 4 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6. So here is what my graph is going to look like. So negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So negative 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then negative 3, 5. And then negative 2, 5.4. Negative 1, 5.6. And then 0, 6. So see, it's still that same shape. It's just been moved. It moved left 4 and up 4. And so then that would be my graph, and then notice that my domain and range are correct. Alright, for the next one, notice that just by looking at my function, I know my graph is going to go down 5, and it's going to go left 1. So that means that my domain is going to be x is greater than or equal to 1, and my range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 5. Alright, so when I graph this, I'm going to have x and y, and I'm just going to, remember, do opposite. So I'm going to have negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. If I plug in negative 1 plus 1 is 0, square root of 0, 0, 0 minus 5 is negative 5. If I plug in 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, square root of 1 is 1, 1 minus 5 is negative 4. If I plug in 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, the square root of 2 is about 1.4. 1.4 minus 5 will be negative 3.6. If I plug in 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, the square root of 3 is about 1.6. 1.6 minus 5 would be like negative 3.4. And then if I plug in 3, 3 plus 1 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, 2 minus 5, that would be negative 3. So when I graph this, I'm going to have negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So negative 1, negative 5, 0, negative 4, 1, negative 3.6, 2, negative 3.4, and 3, negative 3. Notice it's the same shape, the square root symbol, and then it's just been moved down 5 and left 1. My domain is x greater than or equal to 1, negative 1, sorry, put that negative 1 there. And then my range is y is greater than or equal to negative 5. Helps if I put those signs there. Alright, I think I've got time for one more. Yep, one more. So this one, notice that my graph would have moved up 1. There is no number inside the radical, so it means it hasn't moved left and right. My domain then would be x is greater than or equal to 0, and my range would be y is greater than or equal to 1. If I do my t-table, I'm going to use 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The square root of 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Square root of 2 is like 1.4. Plus 1 would be 2.4. The square root of 3 is 1.6. Plus 1 would be 2.6. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. When I graph this, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, the first point's at 0, 1, the next point is at 1, 2, the next point is at 2, 2.4, the next point is at 3, 2.6, and the last point is at 4, 3. Notice it's that same shape, it's just the graph has moved up 1, my domain is x is greater than or equal to 0, and my range is y is greater than or equal to 1. Alright, that's it for today.